So today I want to talk to you about the phases of design. Unlike a lot of things that you may see on HGTV, we don't have any big reveals in commercial design. That is because our clients are with us and walking through the process from the beginning to the end, step by step. So sit back, take a minute, enjoy whatever's in your cup as I enjoy what's in mine, and we'll dive into the 5 phases of interior design. Hello, I'm Jocelyn Mackey with Accessible Design Studios, and welcome to our studio. Today we're going to dive into the 5 phases of interior design. And with us being registered interior designers, even though we follow these 5 steps that other designers do as well, it may get a little different in spaces because we are actually licensed to stamp our plans here in Georgia. So that gives us a few more steps. And I'm just going to talk specifically about design. We offer 2 things. We offer interior design, and then we offer the decorating side of interiors. Those are completely 2 different things. So the furniture selection and finish selection we call decorative services, but the actual design and building out of interior spaces is what we're going to talk about today. There are 5 different steps, and it helps us move our client through the process successfully, making sure that we stay on track with what our initial scope was and deliver exactly what it is they approved and what we said we'd do. So with that being said, our first phase is pre-design, or what we also call programming. That's about the first 5% of the project. And in a residential design or decorative design aspect, they would probably call that the consultation, although we don't call it consultation because we're really not consulting at that point. Pre-design for us is a review of the scope, a review of the goals, a review of the budget. We're on site walking through the site with the client, and we're talking about the schedule. We're talking about the building program. And what the building program is, if you think about the space, we're talking about how many offices and how many copy rooms, and or if it's multifamily, how many units and how many different amenity types of spaces. So that's the building program. We're talking about that in detail on site, along with selecting the team. So we come as registered interior designers, and for most things that don't include any of the exterior walls or the structural, we don't need the architect to stamp our drawings. We can stamp them ourselves. And whenever we do get into light structural stuff, we can have a structural engineer and incorporate their drawing set. But there may also be engineers needed for lighting, plumbing, and such. So at that point, in walking through the property with the client, we're determining who else do we need on this team. And that's very important. And then after that, or during that time, usually after, because I like to walk through the project with the client and then go back and walk it as a team ourselves. And what we do then is we call that recording the building conditions. That's our due diligence and feasibility. So what we do after I walk through with the client is we go back through the property, we're taking pictures, we're taking measurements, videos, and we're trying to determine what the style is of the building, what the existing conditions are of the spaces that we'll be renovating, what are the adjoining units and the rest of the building, what is it being used for, and things of that nature, and whether or not what our client wants to do is feasible, on a surface level based on code and occupancy types and things of that nature. And then we also consider the historical data of the building in the area, the cultural data, the socioeconomic data, and some zoning research and code analysis. So this is just the first 5% of the project. This is crucial because it sets the trajectory for the project, so we know exactly what we need to accomplish and who's going to be accomplishing that with us, and even whether the building is feasible or the design is feasible for that location. So after we've done all of that, step 2 is schematic design, and that still only gets us to 15%. We've only gotten 15% into this project, but this is where we start brainstorming all the information we got during the programming or pre-design phase, walking through with the client, any questionnaires that we might have had them fill out, any additional information we've asked them for. We're able to come back to our office and start brainstorming. Also, we would have asked the client if there are any as-built drawings. Those are drawings as the property is currently built, because that will help us too in saving time and to be able to really get started and kickstart off with our schematic design. And in schematics, it's about concept and feeling and making sure that we're connecting with our client's brand and their goals for the project. So we're pulling together imagery that convey a certain feel, level of quality, a certain style. We're also pulling together finishes and maybe some fabrics, but this is all about imagery. It's all about creating a feel, and we usually do maybe 2 to 3 different concepts. So we will sit down with our client during the presentation of schematic design and make sure that we are on point and in line with what it is that they're expecting, that we're designing in line with their brand, in line with their vision, also bringing to the table some of our unique thoughts about the project, right? Because we would have walked through with them in the previous phase and heard all of their ideas. And now it's our time to take their ideas and see if we can elevate and see what we actually have to bring to the table that moves it one step higher, one step further forward. So all of that is done in schematic design. We also will create some loose floor plans, a couple different schemes to say that, this is the space planning, and then we'll just work through that and see how close we can get to something that can be approved. And then we'll do some 3D modeling and even some rendering in color, so that if we can show our client the space in 3 dimension, that is also very helpful, because from this design phase, only 15% of the design. We need this to be rock solid, because we need the client to be able to approve this so we can move on to the next phase, and that's phase 3, design development. So in design development, we're only getting 35 to 50% through this process. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and oftentimes a lot that the client doesn't see until it's time for a presentation. So during design development, we take all of those things that were approved during the schematic design phase and we develop them further. We start talking to the engineers that will be involved with electrical, plumbing, mechanical, structural. If there's an architect that's been brought onto the project, we'll coordinate with them as well. We are beginning to do elevations, meaning we're drawing parts of the building in a vertical setting, just additional drawings that go along with the floor plans. We're coming up with our concepts for the ceiling plans. We're doing all the details for the millwork, selecting all the interior finishes, because during design development, this is our final design phase. Everything has to be approved. Everything has to be in line for us to move to the next phase, which is phase 4, construction drawings. So in construction drawings are 50% usually at minimum when we start. We're halfway through this process, and construction drawings is by far the largest portion of the project. It takes the most resources, the most people involved from our staff perspective, and what we're doing is we're creating initially a check set of drawings. As soon as we get out of the design development, we're actually creating construction drawings that are loose. But now we're taking those loose ideas, condensing them into one solid idea, and we're starting to get those drawings out to the engineers. And we're sitting down as a team and we're reviewing them to make sure that they're in line with the initial goals that were set in phase 1, which was pre-design. And then we're also going to sit down and we'll have a page turn with our client to make sure that the things that we're drawing are in line with what they had approved. So it's very, very important, even before we get deeply into construction drawings, that we have a really quick check to make sure everyone is in sync with each other, so that we can have a very productive construction drawing process and we stay in line with what it was that we set out to accomplish. And so from there, from the check set, we can then, and that's usually about 50%, we can then move to where we're at 70%. And when the drawings are if we're about 70% into the process, then we should have drawings that are detailed enough to be able to give to the contractor for them to start bidding the job. And then once the bids start coming in and we see what the budget is, then we may have what we call a VE meeting, where we sit down and value engineer, which means if things could be done more economically, if some things that were decided just aren't in line with the building's envelope, or we found some things along the way that just aren't aligning, this is our time to sit down and value engineer, and that may cause for us to have to go back and make some changes to the construction drawings. And that's why we do this in our final phase. At the end of design, everything needs to be buttoned up, because our next set of drawings, or the drawings that are going to go out to be filed with whoever the municipality is the authority of that jurisdiction. And they begin reviewing them so that when it's time for the permits to be pulled, we have approved drawings. So that's done at about 70%. You would think that'd be done at 100, but to be honest, it would hold the project up if we did it at 100% of construction drawings, because there's some things that we do that are required to construct a building in little interior details that are not needed for permitting. So at 70% of that project, we are ready to issue the drawings for filing. And then the last phase in construction drawings is the 100%. That is when every I is dotted, every T is crossed, and we're at 100% completion, and we're ready to issue these drawings to the general contractor for construction. Now, nothing is ever really 100%, because in every project there are additional questions, there are things that come up, and all of those things are addressed in the next phase, construction administration. So in the phase of construction administration, we begin doing site visits, and during those site visits we have observation reports that we complete. And what that does is it allows us to note the things that we saw on site that may need to be addressed, as well as the stage of design that we noticed. We take pictures, we take videos, and we create a document that then we share with the client and the general contractor as to what we observed while we were on site. During the process of construction, a lot of times the contractors, when reviewing our documents, may have additional questions that require clarification, and so we do these things called SKs, which are nothing but sketches that clarify any questions that they have. And sometimes it's more than just a sketch that's needed, especially when there's actually changes to the scope of work. When changes are made or change orders come about, which it could be that the owner has decided that they want to do something different, or the building won't bear whatever the design solution was and we need to change it, or the general contractor has a different solution and doesn't think that the solution or the direction we're going in is the correct one, and it's determined a change order is appropriate. It may require more than a sketch. It may require that we actually amend our construction drawings. It may even require that we refile those amendments with the authority having jurisdiction over the project. So change orders can't be taken lightly. There's usually a significant cost impact to the client, but they do happen from time to time, and we have to be able to process that and move quickly with the general contractor so that we stay on time and as close to budget as possible. And then there's the review process. The review process is when the contractor needs to send us documentation saying that they've met a certain threshold in the project. It's usually when they're ready to take another draw. And so we review their documents that they have to share with us, showing that they've met that threshold. We review photos and other things that they've sent so that we can confirm to the client that based on the design and the construction drawings, that yes, the project looks like it is at this point, and approving for that to move forward. We'll walk through the project with the contractor and the owner, and we'll do this thing called a punch list. And that list is us identifying all of the additional items that just need to be tidied up. Some things that may not be quite up to standard, some things that may have been overlooked, and we document that so that the contractor can go through one last time and take care of any unfinished business. We also assist with any coordination for special inspections, special sign-offs, and then it's done. And the client gets a certificate of occupancy from their authority having jurisdiction, and then they're able to use their building as designated. So that is the 5-step process, and it's detailed. It is lengthy, but in commercial interiors and as a registered interior designer, this is the process to make sure that every bit of the scope that we set out to achieve from the beginning in programming is complete all the way through closeout. I hope that helped you have a better understanding of the process of interior design from a registered interior designer's point of view. We did not touch at all on decorative items, but we'll do that in another video. Until next time, continue to make your life a beautiful place to be. Like and subscribe to let me know if you'd like more videos like this one. Stay connected. Follow us on Instagram at Accessible Design Studios.